Hello, everyone. God's richest and mightiest blessings be with you. Welcome to SOLW Cast. I'm your host, Hallowed Foxmoon, Pastor Jacob, however you want to call it. Call me. My goodness. And this is episode 8. You'd think I would have this opening down by now. Apparently, I do not. This is a podcast about video games and Christianity and kind of everything in between, where we get to go through the news of the week of the video games, and we get to kind of tie in a little bit of our faith to try to understand a lot of different things throughout games. And sometimes we'll just focus straight on theology and Christianity and read the Bible. That is not what this week is going to be going. We got a lot of news to cover, as it is June 4th on this recording. We're finally into the month of June. And as we get going into this, we got a whole bunch of news from just the month of June starting to the fact that there was a PlayStation State of Play towards the end of this week. And so we are going to be looking at a whole bunch of things. We got a lot of different trailers that popped up throughout the week as well. And so with all of that being said, we're going to be talking about some Final Fantasy stuff later, and talking about kind of the idea of sin and punishment. Yeah. That's cool. Yeah, okay. My brain just doesn't stop like going off onto random tangents even as I'm talking and going through things. So I apologize. That was just like my brain just kind of. But no, we're gonna from Final Fantasy X, because I've been seeing a whole bunch of that stuff later. We'll get into that as from what I've been playing. But let's start off with the news. As soon as June opened up this week, my word, the floodgates have just kind of been opened up for announcements and everything going forward. The first thing that came out this week was a bit on Sonic Frontiers. A new trailer showing gameplay popped up, and it is open world by level. So I'm gonna say probably the closest thing of recent time that it's probably going to be like is Pokemon Legends Arceus, except Sonic, not Pokemon. Because, I mean, they kind of tried to do the Pokemon thing with the Chow Garden in Adventure 2, and that takes forever and ever and ever and a day. But no, Sonic Frontiers, open world by zone gameplay, which is looking like a lot of fun. It's looking a little sparse. That might just be the bit of having a Sonic game that you're open. You just got to let the guy be able to run around. I'm kind of thinking even a bit about the Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart level, when you are in that huge open world where you're running around boosted and you have the boots that will give you the really fast running. And so I'm wondering if that will be similar to how the gameplay is. But even then, hopefully later levels in the game will have a lot more going on in them. Otherwise, that's probably going to be a detriment to the game. But Sonic Frontiers, it's looking definitely looking closer to Adventure 2 than some of these other ones, that the 3D adventures that have happened in the years in between. And so I'm definitely excited for it, but I'm not holding my breath until things come out, because 2D Sonic games have been really good so far. 3D Sonic games have been kind of hit or miss, and mostly miss than hit. So we will definitely see what comes from Sonic. There will probably be even more announcements as the month goes on. Next, and probably one of my favorite things of this week, was that Pokemon Scarlet and Violet had a new trailer come out this week, showcasing more of the game. A few new mons, the legendaries were shown, and it talked about how you can play the game with your friends. So in Pokemon, you've always had the adventure by yourself. You can trade with your friends. You could battle your friends. You could trade and battle with random people that just kind of uh, whatever RNG would give you. But now, you and three friends can do a multiplayer co-op of the game. You can go whichever direction you want. There is no set story path. There probably is, but you can just go and do whatever you want for the game, and that is doing a lot of fun. They showed the professors, one that is based more in old and one kind of a new. I think there's a past and future focus in these games. And then we got to see a couple new Pokemon. We have the olive Pokemon, and we have Lechonk. Lechonk the pig. That's the only thing that actually matters, and my brain just completely spaced on the name of that olive Pokemon. I'm gonna look it up while we're going. Of course, all of the starters. Then we had Pawnee as well, and Smoliv. It had olive in it somewhere. So Pawnee is the Pikachu, electric mouse Pokemon of the generation. Lechonk is a pig with a fantastic name, Lechonk. And Smoliv is the interesting, a normal grass type, which is interesting, adding that normal. And we added the box art legendary Pokemon, two dragonish looking type Pokemon. They haven't known actually. They actually look really Monster Hunter to me, honestly, as you kind of sit and look at these things. Koraidon and Miraidon. Assuming that is how you pronunciate these mons. I'm definitely going for Violet myself, but I kind of usually lean towards that second one that is said in like red and blue, gold and silver. Actually, I did gold instead of silver. Okay, ruby and sapphire, diamond and pearl. I did pearl. X and Y. I did X. Okay, so we're still most of the time at the second one, not always. Um, ruby and sapphire. What was that? X, Y, Z, black and white. I did white. Um, yeah, sun and moon. I did sun. So never mind. What am I talking about? I'm just rambling. My goodness. I can't focus tonight. My word. But no, these games are looking like a lot of fun. Hopefully we can see more. And this is an interesting point that haven't really heard elsewhere. The fact that they did a Pokemon showcase at the beginning of the month before anything of like a Summer Games Fest or IGN's Summer Games thing or anything like that came out means that Nintendo's Direct, if they're going to have one this month, which they likely are, I can't say for certain if they will, but I mean, Xbox and Bethesda have one on the 12th. There's a couple other ones that have been announced, and so hopefully we'll hear of one soon coming from both Nintendo. I mean, Sony kind of did some of theirs, but they've got to have more. This was kind of a mini one, I'm gonna guess, before the major one. But Pokemon, the fact that they have this big game, or the game that kind of comes out every other year, or some type of Pokemon usually comes out every single year, but they relegated that to itself before any other type of announcement means that, while they definitely wanted to have a focus on it, it is not their main focus of anything that they are going to do, because Pokemon can sell itself. Pokemon does what Pokemon does. No, this means that we're going to get a lot more of stuff coming in the next month to even further out and into the fall, winter, and then maybe even next spring. Maybe Breath of the Wild 2, because hey, it's about time we hear more about it. I know it was pushed back, but they're gonna wanna start showcasing a whole bunch more of that stuff. And the time that E3 normally is great. Though Gamescom at the end of the summer could also be another great time to do so. But Pokemon Scarlet and Violet having that brand new trailer showing all of that new stuff, I definitely am gonna be picking up those games and playing them when they come out. And hopefully I can maybe try to get my son to be a little bit more involved with this one, have another year under his belt, and maybe be able to focus a little bit more. Who am I kidding? He's a 3-year-old. He'll be a 3-year-old by that time. So, yeah, no, he won't be able to sit still enough to do it. That'll be fine. We can wait another generation until he really gets into it. Because he likes Pokemon. He likes it a lot. He's like, can we watch Pokemon? Play Pokemon Go. Can watch the show. Pokemon. Watch streamers, do different things on Twitch too. It's a lot of fun. I've already corrupted my son, and that's fine. It was bound to happen sooner or later. Going on from Pokemon, yeah. Another one that is a blast from my past, literally, Bomberman. Konami has promised that there is going to be more games coming from the Bomberman franchise, which is fantastic. As Bomberman R, specifically Bomberman R Online, is shutting down their servers on December 1st of this year. It's kind of a bummer when online games that have built a major part of it by being online, then shut down their onlineness, because we've seen that a couple times of late. My main one thinking is Nintendo shutting down the 3DS and Wii U eShop, in as much as you can't put funds on there with credit cards anymore, which is a bummer. You can still buy stuff until March of next year, but Konami is shutting down the servers of Bomberman R Online December 1st, and they said that they will be working on more games in the franchise going on from there. I know that was Bomberman 1 and 2, Super Bomberman 1 and 2, I should say, were games that my dad, my brother, and I would play weekly. That or a Mario Kart or Smash Brothers, but we definitely blew each other up with Bomberman a bunch of times, and so I'm excited to see more Bomberman stuff. Actually, got a couple Bomberman games over there. Haha, of course you do. You gotta be able to blow each other up. It's a lot of fun. Another bit of news for this week, something that people have been looking forward to for a long time, is Dragon Age 4 has finally gotten its name. And it is Dragon Age Dreadwolf. Now, my initial just gut funny reaction was that, all right, Dragon Age is combining with Witcher, and so Dragon Age 4 and Witcher 4 are going to become one game, Dragon Age Dreadwolf. The Monster Hunter. That's not going to happen, but that was my brain again doing its silliness and ridiculousness. But no, Dreadwolf coming out for Dragon Age 4 means that they are steadily progressing with bits of that game. So let's definitely keep an eye out for that and look forward as more comes out about the game. I do not think it had set a release date. I forgot to triple check on that one. Which leads then finally to the bit of news for the main bit of news probably for this week was the PlayStation State of Play. Had all sorts of stuff. I'm only going to be highlighting 6 of the games that were announced, but there were definitely a whole bunch of other games on there. So please, if you have the time, go and watch it. A lot of fun. The one that was probably the most popular game that was announced during the presentation is that Resident Evil 4 Remake was announced, and that's going to be coming out next March. And with all of the games that were delayed this year, that means that spring is already loaded with possible 2022 games. And we're now adding in one that is going to be a blast from the past that it is arguably the one of the best Resident Evil games that is out there. So RE4 coming March of 24. So that'll be a lot of fun and excitement. Welcome in, welcome. Next up from the State of Play, this is not in any order because I know this one was the last one. Final Fantasy 16 got a new trailer and a release window. and this is so exciting. Final Fantasy 16 should be coming summer of 2023. Focused again a lot on summons, as a lot of the games have been. Though this time, instead of being summons or eidolons, they're icons. Can they just keep the name, please? Can you just stick with the name and go with it? They're a summon. A summon is a summon. Let's just go with that. But again, it's an action RPG. Square seems to be done with the Final Fantasy games. It looks like being turn-based. And the closest thing that they're going to be getting back to those turn-based is what Bravely Default or Octopath Traveler is, where it's that you can defend or like stop your action. You can save up your actions and then blast people away, which adds definitely a bit of nuance to the turn-based strategy game. But I don't know if we're going to be seeing too many of the turn-based classic Final Fantasies going into the future. What would have been the last turn? I mean, they've never really even had the classic outside of one, because they've usually had the ATB. Starting in, no, three would have. What did three have the ATB? That is an excellent question. I think three did have the ATB. I don't think it was a just everybody take a turn back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I don't know, but it definitely is looking. We're going back to a high fantasy setting. Lots of war, lots of conflict, and lots of big kaiju battles with summons. And we got to see a lot of the summons. So exciting all around. Final Fantasy 16 coming next summer. Street Fighter 6 got a release year. So Street Fighter 6 is coming out next year. And if you were ever wondering what an adventure would be like from the perspective of a kitty cat, Stray finally got some more news and a release date. And that Stray is the adventure of just a little kitty cat in a mech world, just trying to make its way and do its thing. July 19th of this year. Not only is it coming to PlayStation, but I do believe it is also coming to PC on Steam. So Stray, it's looking like a really cute, fun game. Hopefully it'll be a nice one to pick up on sale sometime. I don't know if I'm gonna have time to do it right away, but this trailer definitely hooked me a bit more than previous ones. So definitely looking forward to seeing more about Stray. If you have not had the chance to play Spider-Man and Spider-Man Miles Morales on PlayStation 4 or 5, or don't have any of those systems, you're in luck if you have a PC, because it is coming that way August 12th of this year. And so more PlayStation games are making their way to PC, and that is definitely a lot of excitement to be had. And then finally, from the state of play of things I'm going to be talking about, is that Tunic, that really fun game that has been a Xbox exclusive for now, will soon not be an exclusive, as it's coming out on PlayStation on September 27th. And I'm really hoping it makes its way to Switch as well, because it just seems like a Nintendo game. It is a Nintendo product. That's where it definitely takes its roots from, and I hope it makes its way there eventually. But that was the PlayStation State of Play. And the last bit of gaming news, I talked about last week that Diablo Immortal was coming out on mobile, and that did come out. I downloaded it on my phone. But what I didn't realize is that it is on open beta on PC right now. And it came out on the 2nd, so you are able to play the PC version of it right now as well. And you can close that game out, open it up on your phone, and you'll be in the exact same place, because it's cross-save, cross everything from your phone to your PC, which is so stinking cool. And so definitely, if you're worried about oh, I just have such a, my fingers are just so big on the phone. I can't, and I just, this type of game is not one I would like to play with just touchscreen controls. Touchscreen controls just, they're not my bread and butter. Give me some good old fashioned buttons, and that is what the PC one gives. So, Diablo Immortal is on open beta on PC right now. So you can definitely go and download that. So switching gears from news, and before we get to discussion, just get a little shout out for what I've been playing. The month of amazing games wrapped up on Tuesday, and we were able to have a whole bunch of fun, do a bunch of giveaways as I played Kaizo, Ironmon, Pokemon Fire Red. We never made it past the first fight in Viridian Forest. We made it out of the lab a whole bunch of times, but I had 14 different attempts to try to get out and kept dying. That was unfortunate, but we may be definitely doing a bit more of that type of content in the future. But right now, focusing on 3 different games, and I've been playing just the rest of this week, Final Fantasy X, which, as far as the game goes, has so many different theological themes and questions that it brings up that just lends so much to the different content that I like to provide as Christian resources. Let's talk about it. Let's get into it. I want to do a little bit more on Monster Hunter Rise eventually, so that we can get ready for the newest DLC that's coming out, Sunbreak, next month. It's sometime very soon. And then also I wanted to jump back in and do some more of the A Link to the Past randomizers, because I had a lot of fun with that, and I want to see if I can actually finish a run on a stream, which my streams at most would be 3 hours, and I want to see if I can get into that 2 hour range. So I want to learn more about that as I go. So those are the game content that I've been focusing on stream right now. It's been a lot of Final Fantasy X, because I had a lot of different times to talk about stuff, and heck, I streamed with my baby, my 4-month-old, right here, and it was a lot easier to be able to care for him as he's sleeping or when he wakes up, playing a classic RPG than trying to do something actiony that requires a lot of concentration and focus. So that's what I've been doing and playing. But that actually leads right into the discussion question I have, because Final Fantasy 16 news came out, and I've been saving this for a little bit of a time of, hey, Final Fantasy stuff, let's look at it, let's do it. What is your favorite Final Fantasy game? I went on to Twitter and the Facebook group that I lead, and got a whole bunch of responses for it. We have a couple different 9s, people like 7, 4, 14, 5. There are so many good Final Fantasy games. It's hard to not have a good one when you have 15 iterations of just the mainline game, plus you have tactics games, plus you have adventure. Is that what the Game Boy ones were called? I can't remember. Final Fantasy Quest. There's just so many different Final Fantasy games, let alone all of the spin-offs, like Chocobo Racing, which that's as much as that's going to be ever talked about here. And the card game, the mini games that are in the games that have become big games in and of themselves. Blitzball. The fact that Blitzball from Final Fantasy X is now canon in Star Wars. That just came out this last week or two. Just ridiculousness of what Final Fantasy can have. My favorite game, it's really a toss-up for me. Sometimes I would say it's 7, sometimes I would say it's 10. 9 is up there, but I don't think it beats out 7 or 10 for me. 6 is also another good one. 4 I've spent a lot of time on. 3 was okay. It was a good one that they remade onto the DS. Of course, 1 is a classic, but 7 or 10, it varies depending on if I'm playing it basically at that time, if it's my favorite or not. So those would be my favorite games of the Final Fantasy franchise. But no, if you want to let me know what your favorite Final Fantasy game is, either write it in chat or go on over to Twitter and you can respond to the post there. It's just been a lot of fun to see what people's different favorites are for the games. And keeping with the Final Fantasy theme, we're going to be looking at uh, a quote from Wakka, of all people, at the very beginning of Final Fantasy X. Literally just went through the scene on Wednesday, and I gotta say, it really has stuck with me throughout the rest of the week to talk about. And when they're going and talking, they're talking about sin. In this instance, Sin is the huge water monster that is just going and killing people and trying to make as many fiends as possible, as people who don't die and aren't guided onto death, from death, become just monsters in the world. But how he says it is that sin is the punishment that we are still dealing with, from our ancestors, and we are still dealing with the punishment of what we have been, uh, what they were doing 1,000 years ago, or however many. I think it was 1,000 years, and so it's just like that is an incredibly deep statement, and one that, as a Christian, I very much can get behind. Is that we as people deal with sin on our own. It's not a huge fightable monster that just like shoots out little tentacled things and bugs and all these other types of things, though I do still hold to the fact that mosquitoes are demons incarnate. But that's completely other soapbox. No, sin is the wages of sin is death, and the fact that these wages, the punishment, the, for lack of a better word, the consequences will continue to the third and fourth, like continue through the generations, is all thanks to Adam and Eve. As they ate the fruit in the garden, of which God specifically told them to not eat of it, even though the devil uh, tempted them and they fell into temptation, yet still we are suffering from it. And from sin came the knowledge of good and evil, or because of sin came the knowledge of good and evil. And because we knew of the knowledge of good and evil, we have suffered with death and pain and torment and torture. And sin is wreaked havoc throughout the world from the beginning of time, well, right after the beginning of time, until now. And until Christ comes again, it will do its best to drag as many people down with it as possible. Yet the great high summoner, the high priest, you might say, made sacrifice, as Final Fantasy X goes on and does. And yes, this is spoilers for a 20-year-old game. The idea is that the summoner sacrificed themselves, taking on the form of sin. They become sin, and it will take a few years of peace and tranquility, but then sin will ravage the world again. But we have a high priest, a high summoner, a high being that did so much more. Christ took on sin. He became sin for us. And in doing so, he took on the punishment, not just the fact of death, of how God could die. A sinless human could take on the sin of the world, become the sacrificial lamb of God to take away the sin of the world. He became sin incarnate to face the utter wrath and abandonment by God himself, he abandoned himself and he suffered hell. But in hell he proclaimed victory, for hell could not hold him, for he was a blameless one, one who was there, the deep magic, the before the world was written, as Aslan would say for The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Don't quote the deep magic to me, which I was there when it was written. For he was the perfect, he was the sacrifice, he was the one to take on sin and take our place so that we could have tranquility, we could have peace, we could have comfort that the world cannot know and give. And this is why the way that Wakka is talking about, hey, sin is our punishment for what our ancestors did. Absolutely. This is why we are still dealing with sin. It corrupted the world because of one action of two different people. We are now going to continue with all of that, but take heart because sin and death have already been defeated on the cross. The victory has been won. We will know the fullness of that victory when Christ comes again in his glory on that day in the future that only he knows, not only the Father knows. And that is a day worth looking forward to. And until that time, yes, we will deal with the wages of sin and all of its destruction as it wreaks havoc on our world. But find peace and hope that Christ has come, and Christ is coming again. And so, sin and the punishment of the wrongdoings of our ancestors is done. We have propitiation, we have repentance. We can turn from our sin and our wrongdoing, and we are forgiven of it all because of the great high priest, the sacrificial lamb. Amen and amen. Well, that wraps up episode 8 of SOLW Cast. Thank you all for joining live, and for those who are catching it later, either on YouTube or on your favorite podcasting platform, thank you for watching or listening there. If you want to get to see more content about this, search Streams of Living Water on YouTube or on your favorite podcasting platform. Here you can hear old episodes and other different Bible studies and devotions that were gaming related. And note that there will be more resources coming in the future for Streams of Living Water, some hymn resources as well as Bible story resources. Those are still in the works and still coming, so definitely take a look for that. If you have any questions or comments, you can always find me on Twitch or on Twitter at HallowedFoxmoon, or you can email me at streamsoflivingwaterresources@gmail.com. With that being said, continue to remember that Jesus loves you and he came to save you. And until next time, we'll catch you later. Bye.